Hello, welcome to the Saroy channel. I'm so glad you've joined me this evening. I've got the most wonderful story for you tonight, as I always do. Remember, I've got lots of stories coming in, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So let's get started. Dear Sarah and all your lovely listeners, this is a letter from 1980, and I found it lying among all the letters in my grandmother's writing cabinet. In lockdown, to relieve boredom, I have been reading all the old letters, and I randomly stumbled on this by chance. I know you will find it interesting because the letter is all about a Bigfoot. Dear Martha, June 1980. It was wonderful staying with you in Orlando, Florida. You have such a beautiful home and such a loving family, and you have done such an incredible job raising them all without a dad. I'm so proud of how you have coped dealing with the grief of Spencer's tragic loss. You really have been amazingly brave, and I am so proud of you. The weather here in West Virginia has been sunny and pleasant, and so I have been playing a lot of tennis with Esther, Connie, and Trudy. We have had a wonderful time on the court, and yesterday when we played, I felt so exhausted from all the physical exertion, probably due to my low fitness level. Suddenly we all smelt this horrendous smell that was so ghastly we had to move away from the court. Remember those stink bombs we would explode in school so that classes would be forced to close? Well, this was like a dozen of those bombs being released all at once. It was awful. I tried to locate the source of the smell, but I couldn't. It just permeated the air, but after a while we grew accustomed to the smell and continued to play tennis. Esther told me she felt as if something or someone was watching us. I was surprised to find that we had all been experiencing similar feelings. I told my friends to continue playing while I investigated the woods that are literally feet away from our tennis court, as I'm sure you remember. I called Dottie, my Labrador, to come for a brief walk with me in the woods, but she just growled at the perimeter of the woods and literally ran back to the house, which was peculiar because she'd never exhibited cowardly behavior like that before. I know I should have followed Dolly's lead and just abandoned my search for who or what I did not know. However, I knew there was something in the woods, because we all experienced that identical feeling that something or someone was spying on us, and I needed to get to the bottom of it. You know how curious I am. I was glad to be carrying Peter's hunting rifle in case it was a predator that had been watching us. As I ventured in the woods, the foul smell grew stronger and frankly more intolerable the deeper that I got into the woods. I naturally assumed I was getting closer to the source of the smell. Then I heard someone making loud, gassy farts that if you get that if you overdo the sprouts or something. Believe me, those farts were smelly, but they weren't the same putrid smell I was also smelling. It was like I had detected two different odors all at once. I suddenly detected movement behind the tree, and for some reason I really believed it was a person. And so I yelled, "Come out, I know you're there. This is private property." Then I heard a distinct shuffling sound coming from behind the tree, and I wasted no time in confronting the stranger face to face. But this thing that I was facing was not human, nor was it a bear or any other creature that I was even remotely acquainted with. The creature seemed elusive and non-confrontational, but that was surprising because he truly looked like a monster out of a horror story. You know, the kind that savagely murders everyone in the house on Fright Night or Nightmare on Elm Street. The only way I can describe him is like something a movie producer would use for a terrifying production that everybody loves to hate. What was stranger still was the creature was covered in sandy brown hair that almost looked like fake animal hair, but I could tell he was real by the steam coming out of his flat pygmy-like nose and his brown eyes that rolled back in his sockets for a second so that I could clearly see the whites. You cannot fake that. If you got an old sandy brown teddy bear and you made it into an oversized stuffed bear of about 7 foot tall and 7 feet thick, and you lengthened its arms so that they hung down to his lower legs, and you replaced his paws for human hands and feet. If you made the head like a cone with a primate and human look to it, well, that's what this creature looked like. It was like I was playing a part in a terrifying movie, because believe me, I was terrified of this thing. It was monstrously huge and incredibly intimidating, and yet it seemed more afraid of me than I was of it. This was not the behavior you would expect from a Class A predator, But then maybe this thing was young and inexperienced. Who knows? This stinky creature, whatever it was, just stared at me like a frozen statue and did not move. I could even see beads of sweat running down his leathery grey forehead, and I realized this creature was really afraid. I noticed that he kept his eyes pinned on my hands, and as I followed his gaze, I realized he was looking at my rifle. I remember my hand literally brushed past my rifle as an unconscious, spontaneous reaction to his stares. He must have thought I was going to use it on him. And then suddenly he let out this shrill, blood-curdling scream that was so terrifying that I quite literally wet my pants and dropped my gun on the spot in terror. The creature did a somersault in mid-air, which I expect was a clever maneuver to escape an impending bullet. And then quite suddenly he seemed to vanish before my eyes like a ghost, which was truly unnerving. I returned to my friends in haste, eager to tell them what I'd seen. And then suddenly that desire to share my experience with them just dissipated. I also knew that if I told them what I'd seen, they'd probably think I was bananas or off my rocker, so to speak. I'm only telling you this because you are my dearest friend, who knows me better than anyone else. And I know you know I would not make all this weird stuff up. I know what I saw was real, and now I need to find out what it was. In summary, the creature must be intelligent, because he knew what my rifle was. There was no question of a doubt about that. So he knows about humans, and that's clear. I think he's elusive because he did not want to be seen, and I think he smells disgusting because he rolls in the mud, and probably in feces as well, to protect himself from mosquitoes. I also believe he must have been watching us playing tennis, because he's as curious about us as I am about him. The weird part of it all is I do not think the creature knew its own strength. Remember my Labrador Moss? He was always terrified of our 3-pound Yorkie, especially when it snapped at him. He did not seem to realize how much bigger and more powerful he was. Well, this creature could have killed me in a heartbeat. Of that I am certain. But I do not think he could comprehend his own strength or power. I will be in touch with you soon. Do you have any idea what this creature could be? If you do, please let me know. Lots of love to you, Abby. Until next time, goodbye.